Hello, Earl Pugh here today with another video on practicing. In the last video, I stressed the importance of using a metronome as opposed to a drum machine. Just a metronome that goes click, a basic metronome. And I said no effects, and this upset some of my students, so I want to make it clear. I'm not saying don't play with effects. I'm saying for the purposes of this exercise, don't use effects. Just use a clean guitar sound. And so now I'm going to show you that indeed I do like pedals. I like effects. I have 8 different distortion pedals, 3 multi-effects units, 2 pedal boards, 2 compressors, 2 or 3 volume pedals, couple of graphic EQs, a 6-band and a 10-band. I use them all. I think they're great, but just for this, we want to have a basic, clean guitar sound. So you can see there's 3 different big muffs. Each sounds slightly different. There are different generations. There's a Ibanez Tube Screamer from about 1980. There's a Brat and a Rat. It's a it's a good basic pedal collection. Everybody should have some. Just for the purposes of this exercise, we don't want to use them. So I'm going to talk about setting your tone. In this exercise, as I said, we just want to, sort of a basic guitar sound. It's not a real aggressive sound, just something so you can hear what you're doing very clearly. So this is my most basic amp. It's a VHT Special 6. It has 2 knobs, volume and tone, and it has a full power and a half power switch. It's not a real powerful amp, but still, if I want to keep peace in the building, I had better not put it on high power. So I've got it on low power. It'll sound better on low power at a low volume. So I've got the neck pickup on, but put whichever pickup on you feel is going to work for you. There's both pickups. We'll use that. I've got the volume at about 4 and the tone at 5. And if I play the low notes and turn the tone, you'll hear that not a lot happens. But if I play the high notes, they're very muted until you get the tone knob up fairly high. So they get a little bit squeaky when I'm up on 10 at the tone volume on the tone knob. So I'm going to put it at about 8. And we'll check the middle of the guitar. So it'll work for something pretty mellow, and it'll work for rockabilly. So that's a good and the notes are clear, the low notes and the high notes. Just take a few minutes and set your amp. So with only a tone knob, there's not a lot of options, but you want to set it to sound as good as it can, no matter how many knobs it has. Now we'll go to the Fender Princeton. The Fender Princeton has a volume, a bass, and a treble. It has no mid-range. It does have reverb and tremolo. We're not going to use the reverb or tremolo, just the EQ. So here's the Fender Princeton. It has volume, treble, bass, reverb, speed, and intensity for the tremolo. So the reverb and the speed and intensity are as low as they will go. I've got the volume at about 2.5, 2 3/4, and both knobs are at 5. If I listen to the lows and the highs, they're not too bad, but I'm just going to play the high strings and see what happens when I turn the knob up. And down. So we can hear it gets kind of muted when you get very low. So I'm going to put it up on 8. I get it pretty bright, reasonably bright, and then I'll check the bass. So there it is down up on 10, and there it is on 0. So I want to turn it up to where it gets reasonably full. So 5 seems to be pretty good. The Trace Elliott has bass, mids, and treble, and it's really a bass amp. So it's a little bit dead sounding for a guitar amp, but still, whatever amp you have, you want it to sound the best that it can sound. And so you just want to take a few minutes before you play and kind of check out your settings. You might be surprised. I did have one student who came in this week and brought his amp because he was upset that he didn't sound as good as he thought he should, and he had all of his tone knobs on 12, and so I convinced him to kind of tone that back a little bit, and he was much happier when he left. And so I'm not saying that where you should put your knobs. I'm saying that you should experiment and find what works for you and your guitar and your style of music. But for this exercise, once again, we're looking for clarity, not perhaps a great sound for if you were making a solo record. All right, so here's the Trace Elliott. It's a solid state, very compact amp. I've got to be careful. It's quite loud considering how small it is, and I don't want to upset other people in the building. So I've got all the EQ set in the middle. So once again, I always start with the highs and try to get them where I like them. And so I like them kind of, up around 3/4. Then I will turn the mids down and just check out the bass. So I started with everything at 5. And there's the bass on about 6.5. And now I'll adjust the mids. Now the mids, you can hear it's almost acting like a volume control. A lot of the guitar sound is mid-range, so when I turn up the mids, it's going to change how the highs and the lows sound. There's an interaction between the controls. So now I'll go back and readjust the highs and put my tone knobs up on 10. So I've got that treble knob almost all the way up. I want clarity. I don't want squeakiness, but I want it to clear. And I guess I want the bass at 5. So I end up with the treble up on 9, the bass at the mids at 5, and the bass at 5. You might not like this sound. Or it might not work. These settings might not work with your guitar. The important thing is to try it and get your sound on the instrument. Before you practice, so that you're practicing with a good sound. A lot of people just walk in, to their practice room and plug in, and they don't kind of think about the sound. I'm recommending that you think about the sound first, and I'll give a shout out to my guitar teacher, Lou Arnold, who said, really, if your tone isn't happening, what's the point? And I think he's got a valid point here, that we all took up this instrument because we like how it sounds. So let's spend a few minutes and get it to sound right. So I'll stay in the Trace Elliot, even though it's my less favorite of these amps, and now go to practicing. So please watch the first video on Guitar Practicing 1. We started off with the metronome at 60, and we played quarter notes. So that's a great place to start. Once you've done that for one practice session, you know, you're probably comfortable with that. But here we are just to get warmed up. We're going to do those quarter notes, and the pick is going down and your foot is going down with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you would do eighth notes. And then you would do triplets. And then you would do swing eighths. So you're hitting the first and third triplet out of the triplet. And then you would do 16th notes. So you're just getting your hands warmed up and your brain warmed up, and then go to 70 and do all those things. So now we're going just a little quicker. 2, 3, 4. And after you've done all the exercises at 70, do Liberty at 70. Do the whole tune, and when you're comfortable with these at 70, go to 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. I started with the eighth notes, but you should do the quarter notes and the, you know, do everything in the order of the first video, and then when you've done the exercises and you feel comfortable with that, then you know, play Liberty at 80. And then, surprise, surprise, I'm going to advise you to turn the metronome down to 40. But we're still at a quarter note equals 80. This is where it gets more interesting, and you'll be working a little bit harder because you are more responsible for the time. The metronome is only going to give you the time twice per measure instead of 4 times per measure. So the metronome is clicking on 2 and 4. So now I want to tap the foot on 2 and 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This should be very easy. It's not, so it's sort of frustrating on occasion. So you would think that we just did it at 80, and now here we are with the metronome clicking at half speed, but it's just the 2 and the 4. It should be it's a very simple idea. It's actually not so easy to do, but if you can do this, then when you go to play with a drummer, it's like putting on old shoes. You know, it's comfortable. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then do Liberty at this speed with the metronome clicking on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. So please think about your sound. Set your amp, for clarity for this exercise. Once again, particularly no reverb and no delay. We really want to hear that the quarter note is a quarter note and the eighth note is an eighth note. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, as opposed to 2, 3, 4. So we want those quarter notes to last as long as a quarter note can last. We don't want to chop them off. And if you chop them off and you have the reverb on, it's gonna hide that. So we don't want the reverb or the delay sort of playing games with the time. So I hope you've had a good week. We'll see you next week.